President Trump been playing President Putin all along? Has this only been a game? The possibly lifting sanctions and that the Russian Federation could keep Crimea. Was this only political rhetoric, or was it the fact that President Trump is a bit wiser than most people have given him credit for? Has he been planning all along to carry on in the very footsteps of President Barack Hussein Obama, and that is to possibly launch a preemptive strike against the Russian Federation? Well, maybe some of the news that we're seeing coming out right now from the Russian Federation could give us some insight to this. You're looking at the Kremlin right here, and right here on TASS Russian News a few days ago, they released this report here. Russian Defense Ministry forms a special purpose division near Moscow. The task of this special purpose aviation division is to airlift personnel, equipment, and cargoes of the Russian armed forces, providing logistic services during search and other special tasks. In other words, in case of a preemptive strike via either conventional military or that of a nuclear attack on the country. President Putin is already making plans to evacuate the Kremlin, and that is something of major concern. But why would he be willing to do that? What would justify these types of actions by the Kremlin in the first place? And at the same time, why would President Trump, if he has been playing President Putin, why would he be wanting to do a preemptive nuclear strike? That is pretty serious. I think we might have some of the answers for you here. Let's take a look. Sunday Express. Not everybody normally says not the best source of news you can be using to begin with, but once you see some of the Russian news headlines and what the articles are saying in Russian language media, you will find out the Sunday Express is not too far off but from the article that they did here on February the 1st, a little over a month ago. Shock claim United States is plotting surprise nuclear attack on China and Russia. The United States could be planning a surprise nuclear attack on China and Russia, as the former U.S. Army major has warned. Well, let's get into the heart of the matter right here. Of course, the major that they're speaking about here is none other than a retired U.S. Army Major Todd Pierce, which told Russian state media Sputnik, no other nation states has any intent on attacking us except if they should survive our initial preemptive attack. They can be expected to retaliate the best they are able. And there is a reason why President Trump may very well be trying or planning this possibility. Let's look at what it says here in the middle of the article here. U.S. Congress has ordered a study into the political and military leadership survivability of China and Russia during wartime. The report could be interpreted as a signal the U.S. is preparing for a preemptive strike on two nations, according to military analysts. U.S. intelligence agencies and Strategic Command, which is in charge of U.S. nuclear forces, will carry out the study, a report says. Well, if they're in charge of the nuclear forces, hello, somebody needs to realize that this is a preemptive nuclear exchange, or not so much an exchange in the White House's idea, but a preemptive nuclear attack the U.S. may be looking at carrying out on the Russian Federation. Well, it's not just the Sunday Express just blowing smoke as if it's no big deal. Of course, they were quoting Sputnik, and they are quoting a very important former retired major of the United States military. But this article right here, U.S. nuclear forces are preparing for war in Europe, is something that was on Russian news and it only came out about 4 or 5 days ago. And the credibility of this one here is far greater, and it's not the Sunday Express. Pentagon Strategic Command conducting the biggest in recent years. Well, they have teaching for the translated word there, but it's not really for the word teaching. Not from Russian. Anyway, February, the U.S. military conducted the most extensive, military operations in years. And that was a military operation. It was called Global Lightning 17. Nuclear and non-nuclear facilities were also engaged in this tactical EU war game carried out by NATO. And that war game was very much a mock of what the Sunday Express was talking about a month ago. Not only the survivability, but how to launch such an attack to catch Russia off guard. And you know, the thing is I believe that the United States military has been planning this strike for quite some time. And maybe President Trump is not such an enemy of that of Barack Obama as much as it appears to be on the surface. Even the accusations of wiretapping and Obama saying that he didn't do any wiretapping, and of course looking at the special investigators to find out the money laundering probe against Hillary Clinton and that of President Barack or former President Barack Obama, all this may just be a game being played upon us. When in fact we know that President Donald Trump is also a cousin of Hillary Clinton, the former First Lady of the United States. It's all one big happy family. So maybe this is all just part of a bigger game. And President Trump is planning on carrying out not so much what President Obama was thinking about doing, because he has tried to avert starting a war with Russia, even though former General Breedlove, who was very much intent on getting a war going with Russia back during the Ukraine war back in 2014, when the fight began there, after, of course, the CIA helped topple the nation and that of former President Yanukovych of Ukraine, and installed their own CIA puppet, Petro Poroshenko. But let's see if the United States has been planning this from the beginning. Those of you who can remember and go back watching Israeli News Live, one of the first things that we saw with this coup in Turkey with Erdogan, which he blamed on the United States, we clearly found the evidence that this coup, no doubt, was staged from the beginning. And maybe our own reporting caught the attention of some of those, especially some of those inside of NATO. NATO insiders suspect staged Turkey coup. Well, a major view with NATO is that it is highly likely that the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, staged the failed coup against himself as a pretext for starting a purge against the critics and opponents. Of course, as they stayed on there, they don't really have any evidence to support it. Well, I don't believe it was so much to purge his own people. I believe that it was actually staged for the very purpose of being able to do the unthinkable that no U.S. president in previous history would have ever done before. And that was to move nuclear tactical weapons a little bit closer to Moscow. By moving, the U.S. moves nuclear weapons from Turkey to Romania. That does put it a bit closer in striking distance of Moscow or St. Petersburg. Not to say that America doesn't already have nuclear weapons in Germany, of course they do. But isn't it kind of odd that on the south side of Ukraine now we have nuclear weapons put there? Has this been a plan all along and from the beginning? Well, we can even step back a little bit and we can see that Russia also was expecting this about 8-9 months ago. Back in June 28th, the U.S. and NATO had stepped up preparations for a nuclear war in response to the so-called Russian aggression. I don't think that Russia is so much really the aggressor in this case, and we've proven this time and time again. You know, even though they did move the Iskander missiles there over into Kaliningrad, that was more as a retaliatory measure from what NATO was doing on the Baltics on Russia's border. And now even the U.S. has put special forces on Russia's border and even posed photographs there to show that they're there and to send Russia a message that we're watching you right here from your own fence. But I think it gets deeper than all of that. Now, before we get into the punchline of why I think President Trump is doing this, we also have to look at the fact that the changes inside his administration. Well, maybe President Trump did want Michael Flynn as his advisor, security advisor at one time. Maybe he did. But you know, he wasn't as tough as what John McCain would have preferred to have. But in fact, when Donald Trump picks Lieutenant General Herbert Raymond McMaster as a new national security advisor, John McCain, who has been crying along with Lindsey Graham for a major war with Russia, sent cheers into the audience to find out that President Trump had done this. And as he stated, it was a wise choice. So, what's going to happen next? And why? And is there a justifiable reason? Well, maybe there is a justifiable reason why President Trump is considering a possible nuclear war with Russia or a preemptive strike and the survivability, not just so much of the United States, but whether or not the Russian military would survive or China military would survive. And of course, they're having to look at both of these countries because they are allies and they may fight together in a retaliatory measure. I cannot help but wonder if it's not because of the infamous Satan II intercontinental ballistic missile that Russia has developed. And Russia has even allegedly tested this very missile. And the reason why this is such a major threat for the United States is because not so much that Russia is looking to use something like this, but the mere fact that Russia is trying to secure their own sovereignty in the world and not to be pushed around by NATO. Well, this particular missile here, according to the Sun, they put hell on earth. What are Russian Satan II nuclear missiles, and could the RS-28 Sarmat warheads reach the UK? That missile, by the way, now this was reported by the Sun, has the ability to destroy the entire country of France or the entire country of the UK, the United Kingdom. It could wipe out the entire country. And some experts believe that the warhead is so big on this particular missile that it could also wipe out the entire state of Texas. Now, I don't know if these outlandish ideas are really true. In fact, even the Russian paper here made note of the same thing, that they made these assertions, but Russia has not come out and said how big of devastation it can cause. But one thing that Russia has said is that they have developed this to where there is not a single defense shield that could stop the missile. And I think this is one of the reasons why President Trump is very concerned about what Russia has developed. It's one thing that it might have the potential to destroy a state the size of Texas. It's another thing when you can't even stop it when it's in the atmosphere above the earth. And this may be why President Trump has been playing President Putin from the beginning. It doesn't mean, it's not that the United States has not known their intelligence reports as they have watched this type of missile be built. And in fact, as you can see on your screen behind you, I'll try to blow that up a little bit bigger here for you. The missile is so big, it's more like a miniature rocket. I don't think any ICBM is as big as what this Satan II, as it's been dubbed the name there, as big as this particular missile here. So I can't help but wonder what's really going on. And I know this may be a long shot, but just to throw it in there as well, we know President Trump, and of course his actions of banning all these different nations and the different people on 7 countries about trying to stop Islamic terrorists from coming into the United States, which has affected several countries inside of the European Union as well, including Poland, the UK, and I forget which the other one was. There's 2 other nations as well. They have now turned around and did a European Parliament voted to end visa-free travel for Americans. They're saying Americans that want to travel to Europe this summer may have to rethink their way entry. Could that just be, is it really, or let me put it this way, is that really a retaliation? Or could it be something different? Could it be that they know that a preemptive strike may be coming this summer? And limiting the travel of Americans to Europe may be in their own best interest. I'm not really sure, can't say for sure on that one there, but it is something that we've thought about. I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom.